Alright, it is 9:49 a.m. and I did have a trade with BNOW. I was also looking at CYBL, and I don't know if this is just coincidence, but I think the market makers are like freaking trolling because look at the freaking size. Look at the amount of shares that were being sold on this downtrend, right? It had a thing where it broke the day range right here, very similar to the setup I saw with DPLS, ILUS yesterday. Same thing, just with this one, and it did make a move as high as 75, and it did eventually break under the 69 level that it was trying to hold for a while. But look at these prints. Who sells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shares? And who sells 6, 9, 6, 9, 6, 9 shares? Like, I wonder if that's like level 2. Like, I don't know if it's maybe market maker communication and they're just telling each other what they're gonna do to the stock, some kind of sign language. I have no idea, but I just find that kind of weird. So I was in at 939, and that was right here at 67. I did have a nice percent gain. I was also thinking about this drop here, maybe holding the original level of 67, but it got to 66. I guess it just went to VWAP instead of 67, and now it's at 71. This might be nice, and look at that big. That's a 10 million. I think that's a 10 million share bidder, maybe a million. I think it's 10 million. I was in at 939 right here at 67 because it looks like it was going to break the level of 67 and make a move towards the highs, which it did do. I sold at 73. I'll have to make sure and see if maybe it is 73 or maybe it's 72 and a half or maybe 73 and a half, but I did get out at 941. Which was right here at 73 is when I got out, right here at 73. I'll make sure the exact numbers. It did get as high as 75. I got out at 73 because it was like a million share seller at 74. They did break it and they got to 75, but I don't know, I just wanted to be in and out very quickly. I did have an interest of maybe considering it if it was going to consolidate and hold the 70 level and then make a move, but I didn't like the price action, and it did again drop. I was interested in it dropping around the 67 level, not necessarily around VWAP, but this could have been another trade that I could have taken. I didn't make very much because I was only in 5,000 shares. It was a nice percent gain. I was undersized. Now, on the BNOW trade I took yesterday, I didn't mind that I was trading such a puny size because that one was purely speculative. But on this one, I actually wanted to trade a $10 risk level. And when I was in it right here at 939, right? Yeah, 939. I was going to cut the trade if it was going to break VWAP, which right now is at 64. Yeah, I think it was always there at 64. I was going to cut it if it were to have broken VWAP, and then I would have sold at 63. And I just had way too little size. I think I should have maybe tried to calculate my size. I don't know. I didn't have much time because I saw this happening on the other screen, and I was watching CYBL, which was in theory a morning panic bounce play. In theory, I could have been at this 145 level because it was doing a turnaround in terms of the level 2, but I don't know. It just had a quick move to 149. There was a big million share seller at 15, and that person disappeared as we started the uptrend, so that was pretty lame. I thought, okay, well, maybe if it uptrends and then it kind of comes back near the day low, I'll be interested. It didn't do that. I guess I could have been up, I could have been in at 145. I really could have. It's not like hindsight is 2020 because the level 2 turnaround was here, the bottom of this candle, and then this candle was near it, and then it opened around this level. Plenty of time it was trading around that level. And yeah, I missed this one, but I mean, compared to BNOW, it's not as pretty looking. As for the other ones, I have no interest. With that one, ILUS, no interest. Ideally, I can continue to uptrend more days so I can offer something for a morning panic bounce play in the future. DPLS, no interest. I had like this big candle right here. I didn't like it. It's not like if it were to have broken the tippy top here, I would have been interested in it like BNOW because this is more consistent. And this is just one big ass candle unless they were all trading with that much range. And at that point, it might be a little sketchy. But I'll keep looking at BNOW. I don't think I'm gonna trade it again unless it does something super obvious and clean. That's the problem with being undersized. If you're undersized on the trade and it works, but you didn't make very much. Well, now you don't want to be properly sized on the next setup, and then that one doesn't work, and then you're red on the day. So that's the thing that I'm dealing with right now. I guess, need to get over it. But right now, I don't see anything other than that idea that it would dip near the breakout level. I'll make an update later. Right, it is 10:18 and we're at 67 by 69. It was a big seller at 70. I don't know if it was taken out or if it just disappeared, but JPEX is, I don't think no, it wasn't similar to BNOW. The prices are somewhat similar, but this one was up like 50% on the day. It had a nice move from this 51 previous close. It went as high as 88. So there's definitely range, and then started trading back and forth. It's not as nice as BNOW because if you look at a daily chart, there's a clear difference between JPEX and BNOW. Although BNOW isn't that nice either. However, the volume is there to make up for it. And JPEX just, could have a bunch of people that are going to be selling into any spike. So, wow, it's actually at 64 now. Anyway, I knew it wasn't going to be as nice as BNOW, so I was even more conservative. I still traded 5,000 shares because I'm petty. I don't want to I don't want to be up on BNOW and then trade a proper size on another setup and then lose money. And now at this point, if I were to have traded a proper size here, I would have been even more profitable today. That's crazy. I deserve that. Anyway, pettiness aside, I was in at 1017. And why was I in this? Well, I saw how it had that downtrend and it did a thing on the VWAP and then it tried here and then it kind of came back near the level. So this could be something that I could play off of. I could play off of 65 if I'm in the setup, and then maybe 65 breaks. I'm out at 64, worst case 63. Like really bad case 60, but I don't think that would happen. And I didn't like the level 2 at first because there wasn't a lot of people supporting 65, but it was absorbing a lot of size. So even though it didn't look like there was support at 65, like for example, maybe just one person at 65 at the bid here with 10,000 shares, and there's a whole bunch of people at, I believe 66, yeah, 66, and you see a lot of red prints, people dumping their shares at 65. It's actually in this case holding it, even though it only showed like a very small amount because it was a hidden bidder. But I still didn't like that. I wanted to see more confirmation. And then once it started to look a little bit better that there were more bidders at 65, and I think we were also starting to hit the ask at 66, that's when I got in at 1017 right here at 66 right before it started the workout. And then it had a nice move to 70, and I was, watching it, and I just didn't want to play games with it because I don't know, I would have liked it more if it was a bit more gradual. And it just had a quick move, and I knew it wasn't anything as nice as BNOW, so I knew to be less patient with it. And I got out at 68. I'll have to make sure, exactly when I sold and everything, but I'm surprised it did like come back immediately and break under it. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but now there's a lot of people supporting 65. Just one seller at 68. Of course, it could be hidden in size, but this thing could do it. I'm just not going to play around with just random ups and downs. I would have liked it if it was just gradually doing it, not just one big spike like this and then it just came back. I would have liked it if it was gradual, but it could still do it. And as for BNOW, it did the thing again. I didn't like this wick. I wasn't going to trade this. I would have just traded it the first time. The second time, it's just more risky to me. And it'll just be something I'll continue to watch. I don't see how I would trade it again, but it could do anything. I am looking at some listed stocks. Nothing really crazy right now. MULN was a very popular stock. It looks like it's trying to break actually this level, so maybe it can continue to do something, but I'd be scared of a head and shoulder. Same with PIK, a head and shoulders for me. Like this could be the head. Maybe it'll like play off of VWAP and then make a shoulder. The range is there for something to you know, be really profitable with. But I'll just continue to watch. In the meantime, I just had another trade there with JPEX, and I'll make an update later. Okay, it is 10:49. I want to make an update. Wow, I just really missed MULN. It literally just spiked right when I started to do something else. But this is approaching around the 11:12 a.m. time that a lot of breakouts seem to happen recently. And okay, it looks like a head and shoulders a little bit. Shoulder, head, and then maybe a shoulder was forming. But I had in mind that this thing could do a breakout more than, you know, a downtrend, although it can still downtrend later. This is nice. It had a move from the 270s to the, I guess, 290 at the very top, but yeah, I totally missed this one. And as for PIK, I was interested in shorting this one for a head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. It did it. I mean, it went from the 714s to the 670s. It didn't break VWAP, which would have been ideal, but when I checked on Trade Zero, I had to pay $32 to locate and reserve 100 shares, so that was not going to be something I was going to do. And it wasn't horrible. I mean, it went from the 713s, I guess, to the 670, so there was range, but it didn't break VWAP. And, you know, it can consolidate and do what it's doing here, maybe try to uptrend later. JPEX was my trade around here. Now, it did try again. It got near the bottom and it did uptrend, but I never got to VWAP, which would have been ideal instead of just downtrending. So this one's probably out of the watch list. As for BNOW, I should have traded this. I didn't see this, and I don't know. Maybe if I was watching it, if I were to have traded it, if the price action wasn't looking good, or the level two. But this thing did the thing where you know it had a drop under VWAP and it came back. You know, ideally 65 to I guess 69 best case scenario, selling to 68. So it didn't do a continuation. It would have been ideal if it broke under VWAP. Maybe got to 71 and then kind of traded around 68, holding above VWAP or maybe right at VWAP at 67 here, and then it continues, but it continued to fail, so that wasn't really ideal. Nothing else really interesting. I want to see what PIK does eventually, but the short setup that I saw, you know, ahead of time that could have played out did play out, just not too nicely. It didn't break under the level, and I did check with my stats, right? Yeah, I was severely undersized on these trades. I mean, in theory, with BNOW, I should have been in probably 25,000 shares. That would have been close to a $10 risk level. And then as for this one, maybe, I guess 50,000, although that would have been a little too much, I think. I would be up a lot more than today, maybe like 6 times as much, but that's fine. I'll make an update later, but there's nothing that I want to trade at the moment. Okay, it is 9:58 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I am up today $4.10, and I should have been up at least $20, I think, if I traded according to my $10 risk level with not SBNOW and JPEX. Two different setups, both for sub pennies. If I had calculated the size and everything, the dollar risk level, I would have been sized inappropriately. I just underestimated, you know, just went too small in size. And I did actually have an interest shorting MULN. I did have this trend line here, this downtrending trend line, and I was watching it very closely here, looking at it, how it was following it. But I just felt like something was just off with the price action. Something felt iffy, and it actually did break past it. And I thought about shorting at $3, but I didn't want to take it because I felt like maybe this is the sign of something new, or maybe this was just like a little bit of a fake out, and then it's going to head right back following the pattern. Well, in this case, it did follow the pattern, and sure, I would have made money off of it. I did have to locate and reserve 100 shares on Trade Zero, and that was only 20 pennies, so I guess I have to knock off those 20 pennies on how much I'm up today day trading. And yeah, I mean, it kind of played off, but you know, it did still hold this VWAP level, and the market closed. It did break under it later, but I don't know how that works with locating and reserving shares ashore after hours, but that was the case there with MULN. And as for JPEX, it did eventually do the thing that I was interested in it, except that it dropped a bit more, but it was nice how it went from 65 all the way to 77 relatively easy. Following a trend line that I could have drawn maybe here to here or maybe here to here, and it would have followed it. I would have been able to have sold higher, but that's totally fine. And this one did work out with PIK, even though I had to pay $32 in theory to short and, you know, have 100 shares. If I were to have taken that short in the 697 level, I mean, it did drop to the 658 level, and then it did a follow-up breakdown, and it went to the 630s. Were really easy. 625, 90 to 625 to 70 bucks, $32 from the locate fee. Still would have been profitable, but of course this is like, hindsight is 2020 because the setup worked out. It didn't have to. It could have failed, and then I'd be down $30 on top of that. So, if it was cheaper, I would have considered shorting it for sure. And as for MULN, I went over the ideas that I had there as well as JPEX. Nothing with DPLS, nothing with ILUS, nothing with CYBL. That's really about it. I'm pretty happy that, I did try. And as for BNOW, it did do that dip on their VWAP. That could have been something that I would have traded. I should have traded it, honestly. I forgot if I didn't see it. I don't think I hesitated. I think I didn't see it. And even though it sold off the rest of the day, this would have been another setup that I could have been a part of. That's all I have for today. I was totally undersized, but at least I was able to trade that breakout, that morning high day breakout, in this tiny range here. And it went from the 67s to the 75s. And, I got my piece at 67, selling at 73. I should have been sized in properly, but other than that, I think today was pretty good. I need to work on my size. That's definitely an issue that I've been struggling with, and God willing, I can try to do better next week. That's all I have for today.